How much does a secret cost? For my wife, Sarah, it was $850 a month, sent like clockwork through a Venmo account I never knew existed. I found it on her old iPad, the one she'd tossed in a drawer after upgrading. It was 2 a.m. The only light in our Chicago brownstone was the cold blue glow of the screen, illuminating a name I didn't recognize, Mark Coleman. The memo for every single payment was the same. For the little guy, my heart didn't just break, it vaporized. For 10 years, I'd given her everything. And for the last 2, she'd been siphoning our future to pay child support for her lover's son. That single glowing screen was the beginning of her end. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. For weeks, I was a ghost in my own home. I'd watch her across the dinner table, laughing about some triviality at her marketing firm, and all I could see was the lie. The casual way she'd touch my arm felt like a burn. Her concern was a performance. Her love, a carefully constructed illusion. The first sign, before the iPad, was her phone. It was suddenly glued to her hand, angled away from me with a practiced subtlety. Then came the late nights at the office, the faint scent of a cologne that wasn't mine clinging to her hair. She'd become distant, a beautiful, cold stranger who shared my bed. When I'd ask if everything was okay, she'd deploy her master weapon, manipulative pity. "I'm just so stressed, honey," she'd sigh, her eyes welling up. "You know the pressure I'm under? Feel like you're just adding to it?" She made my concern feel like an accusation, my pain an inconvenience. She and Mark felt untouchable, wrapped in the arrogance of their secret. The breakdown happened on a Tuesday. I was standing in a parking garage on North Michigan Avenue, watching her get into his car, a smug-looking guy in a suit, who put his hand on the small of her back. They drove off, and I just shattered. I slid down the concrete wall, the rough surface scraping my back, and I sobbed. Not just for the betrayal, but for the fool I'd been. The loyal, trusting husband who'd been bankrolling his own humiliation. That was the last tear I shed for her. In that cold, dusty garage, the grief turned to ice. A plan began to form, a meticulous, patient strategy for not just divorce, but demolition. I became a detective in the ruins of my marriage. I hired a private investigator who documented every lunch at the Gauge, every late-night drink at a hotel bar on Wacker Drive. I took screenshots of the Venmo history, printing them out and storing them in a safe deposit box. I learned that Mark was a struggling architect, recently divorced, with a kid he could barely support. Sarah wasn't just his lover, she was his benefactor. She'd been complaining to me about money, insisting we couldn't afford a vacation, all while funding another man's life. I opened a new bank account and began quietly moving my own assets. I consulted with the most ruthless divorce attorney in Chicago, a woman named Ms. Albright, who looked at my evidence with a chilling smile. The trap was being set. The final act was scheduled for our 10th anniversary party. Sarah, ever the performer, insisted on a huge celebration at a rented-out gallery in the West Loop. She wanted to project success, to stand in a room full of our friends and family and bask in the glow of our perfect life. It was the perfect stage. As she gave a gushing speech about my rock, my soulmate, my attorney's paralegal was serving her with divorce papers. Right there in the middle of her toast. The glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. A collective gasp filled the room. But I wasn't done. I had arranged for a large monitor on the wall which had been displaying a slideshow of our happy years to switch its feed. The screen flickered, and then there it was. A crisp, clear screenshot of the Venmo transaction list. Her name, his name, and a 2-year history of for the little guy. The silence was absolute. Her parents stared, mouths agape. Her boss, her friends. Everyone saw it. I saw Mark, standing awkwardly in the back, turn pale, and slip out the emergency exit like the coward he was. Sarah just stood there, her face a mask of horror. Her social world, the one she'd curated so carefully, had been incinerated in an instant. The legal battle was a formality. The evidence of financial infidelity and adultery, Miss Albright tore her apart. She lost her claim to my assets, her reputation was in tatters, and she was fired from her job for the scandal. She was ruined. I see her sometimes from a distance. She works a low-level admin job now, living in a small apartment out in the suburbs. The arrogance is gone, replaced by a hollowed-out wariness. I never said another word to her after that night. My revenge wasn't loud. It was the quiet, complete erasure of her from the life she had betrayed. The last thing I took from her was the one thing she thought she could never lose: control. The end.